Welcome back to this third section of our Future of Distribution Summit 2021. I am delighted to introduce John Salvadore for this kickoff session, Getting It Right Today, Culture, Career, and Recruiting. John is the managing partner and owner of award-winning GRN Coastal, which is an executive search firm that has placed hundreds of candidates into the electrical, industrial automation, plumbing, HVAC, industrial supply, waterworks, PT, and energy industries. John's personally worked for some of the leading companies in the electrical, industrial distribution, and manufacturing industry, including Eaton Corporation, All Phase Electric, Affiliated Distributors, Vanguard National Alliance, Horizon Solutions, and Horizon Energy Services. The one that he omitted in this list in his bio was actually the one where we worked together 20 years ago for MRO Software, where we both were part of the team there for a few years in the early 2000s. John has managed sales and engineering staffs as large as 100 plus employees and 700 million in sales. He's been a longtime contributor to MDM as well. And John, welcome. Pleasure to have you on board today.
Hey, Tom. Thank you very much. Appreciate the warm welcome. And it's certainly a pleasure to be part of your forum this afternoon. As Tom mentioned, I've been in the distribution sector myself for over 30 years, working at the ground level at many distributor organizations. And I think that gives us a very unique perspective on what's happening in the recruiting landscape. Because everybody in general, when you work at a distributorship or a manufacturer, you should always be looking to bring top talent into your organization, regardless of your position. So today, we're going to just take a quick snapshot of the recruiting landscape and really what's important out there today. We're going to really talk about company culture, and certainly you've all heard a lot about company culture today from a number of different perspectives. We're going to take the view of a candidate, someone that you're actually interviewing, and we're going to share with you some insights that we hear on a very regular basis throughout the last 12, 14 months during the pandemic. I think you'll find that very interesting. We're also going to talk about how the pandemic has made people really take a close look at their career path. Again, from a candidate's perspective, what's important to the candidate. And lastly, we'll spend a good amount of time on putting together a recruitment blueprint, which you can take and utilize within your own organization. It's a accumulation of, I guess you would say, best practices that we've seen from working for many, many years with our clients prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic, and now, as we emerge from the pandemic. So recruiting to us it's a real combat sport. We look at it as a 24/7 type venture. And certainly we feel it every day here at GRN Coastal, whether we're located on the East Coast, if we're doing a West Coast search, we have to be available for our candidates and clients. And those, when the phone rings at 9 o'clock on the East Coast, someone's driving home from work on the West Coast. So we have to take the call, and it's part of our job. And I think that's the mindset that people have to look at as recruitment is it's not a part-time venture. It's something that you really have to be passionate about internally and externally within your own organizations. So let's talk a little bit about culture from the perspective of a candidate and what candidates look for today. Certainly the puzzle piece on culture, when you pull it out of the puzzle, there's an organizational viewprint below it. And today, when we take a look at what's happened over the last 12, 14 months, we feel that companies have really right-sized. In a lot of cases, the pandemic made people go on furlough. There was lots of layoffs. Last year at this time, a lot of job searches were put on hold. But throughout the pandemic, we feel that companies have actually gotten a lot stronger. They know what's important to them as an organization, their values, their culture has come forward, and it really affects the way they recruit top talent today. We've witnessed it firsthand. We recruit and talk to hundreds of candidates a week. We have dialogues ranging, from president level jobs to counter sales type positions and everything in between. So people look at jobs very differently. But as you'll see as we progress today, there's a common thread amongst all candidates, and that's something we really wanted to share with you. But in essence, uh, the recruitment culture within your organization has to be something that's done on a daily, worked on a daily basis. Uh, Candidates need to be recruited actively by your organization. They need to be pursued. And it is a number of the speakers prior to me stated earlier, there is a major war on talent today. Top talent has choices. Top talent wants to make decisions quickly, and they want to move to a better destination of choice. Let's talk a little bit about building your brand and the culture of your organization. We're really we're really big and robust when it comes to the brand that our clients project to candidates. One of the things that we do is every time we get an assignment and a candidate asks us for, say, a job specification, we put together a high level marketing brochure on the company, and then we wrap that job specification in it. Because from that first instant, either we're recruiting or your people are recruiting, the candidate is starting to make a judgment on your organization. So we believe that that first volley from a recruiter has to be a very professional touch point back to the candidate, because your company brand is on display. Equally important, the leadership style of your executives is really important now more than ever. As Kathy had mentioned earlier, uh, candidates are really looking at who they're going to be working for. What's the style of that leader? Is it the type of organization that I can fit into? So the culture today isn't just the company's culture; it's also the pendulum switching and turning to the candidate's culture. So let's face it, candidates have had a lot of time to think about their future over the last 12 months. A lot of people have been working from home. With that, has a lot of time on their hands to explore opportunities, to think about their career path, their direction. So companies have to be very cognizant of that point. Uh, Job seekers want to really know about your company. They want to know that you've cared for your employees during the pandemic. They want to know how and what you've done to make your environment safe to work in and to protect your employees and their families. And equally important, they want to make sure that leadership is accessible in the recruitment process. It's really an interesting scenario that we see top companies are driven by top leadership, and that top leadership is now playing a very active role in the recruitment process. And it's not just for the swinging a top executive onto the team. It's at all levels of the recruitment environment. I see CFOs interviewing branch managers. I see presidents interviewing outside salespeople. I see top executives calling top recruits on the weekend and having a cadence of multiple executives calling that same recruit while they have an offer in their hands and they're talking to their significant others over a weekend trying to make a decision. They have a cadence already set up where top executives are going to call them to try to pull them on board so that Monday morning they get a yes from that candidate. So there's a lot of touch points and a lot of creativity being done out there, but candidates really want to know in the end not only what your company's branding and culture is all about, but they want to know how they're going to fit, and they really pepper us with questions on the organization. So whether it's a recruiting firm or an internal recruiter, they have to be really poised and ready and confident to be able to deliver a very articulate message and professional message about who you are, what your values are, and what you really stand for in the community and in the marketplace. What type of things are candidates frequently asking us? What do they want to know? Again, they want to know the purpose and value of your company. They want to know what you've done over the last 12 months specifically to help employees survive and even thrive during the pandemic. The company what's the company doing to help that employee get better? Everybody wants to get better in the job that they do. Obviously, during the pandemic, it has been tough to put an employee on a plane and send them to a manufacturer's training event because they don't exist. Uh, Local classroom training has even been cut down on significantly over the past few months. A lot of companies are now going towards obviously online training, and a lot of manufacturers are providing that type of content. But the candidate wants to know what you're doing to enhance not only your current employees, but if they came on board, what are you doing to help them get better at what they do? Let's talk a little bit about career and career paths. Certainly, everyone has a career in mind, a career path, a destination, something that they want to be in their career. Uh, One of the things that we ask in the very beginning when we take an assignment on is the first question that we'll ask the interview team or the hiring manager is, have you looked internally to fill this position? And that might seem a little crazy because we're a recruiter. We'd love to get the assignment. But at the same point, it tells me a little bit about the company. Uh, Hopefully, the job's been posted internally for a few weeks, and every single person that's applied for that job has had the opportunity to interview. When all of those avenues have been exhausted, at that point is when you should either look externally for a recruiter or start the effort internally with your own recruitment team. So that's very important. Candidates are actually asking me that question today. Have they looked internally? Why is this job open? Why is it on the open market? Is there anyone in the company that can fill the position? Because you're starting to think about their future with the company. Will they have opportunities to advance? So this is a biggie. Uh, Highly recommend posting things internally and just flushing out every candidate internally. And why does that? Because it impacts your existing team. There's no question that from our perspective, when we look at reasons why candidates are leaving their current position is because of lack of career growth within their own organization. This happens a lot with the larger companies where there's multiple layers of talent competing for the same promotion. Those are the people that you have to step back right now and you got to identify those top performers, those rising stars in your organization. You got to take notice and you got to give those folks a hug. You got to wrap some value around them to keep them excited, keep them focused, and keep them excited about moving forward with your organization. And how do you do that? You wrap some training. Everybody wants to learn. And we highly recommend that when you have a high flyer within your organization and they might not be a perfect fit for a job, but with a little training, little cross training on an opportunity, if they can be promoted from within, again, that training piece can really, accelerate someone's career and it can save you a lot of money, from a recruitment process. So what do candidates want? As I mentioned earlier, we talked to a lot of candidates about all different levels of jobs, from the C-suite to the inside sales, outside sales, branch manager, specialist positions, everything within the distribution channel, and also numerous sales and operations jobs and technical jobs on the manufacturer side. Um, Again, here are some of the top 10 reasons that people are looking for jobs and what they want. First is the company brand. We get asked so many questions about the company in our very first phone call with a top candidate. Candidates are going to do their homework on your organization. What we try to do in our initial volley back to a top talent is that we point them in the right direction to see press releases, to see anything online about your company, which is going to really give them, a real inside out view on your organization. But you've got to be aware of this. I see candidates really doing a lot of ground level blocking and tackling prior to getting involved with the interview process. They do their homework. The other thing is obviously the pandemic's driven a lot of concern about company, financial stability, and there's been layoffs, there's been restructurings, there's been furloughs, people are being called back, but they want to know how you physically have done financially during the pandemic. Is the company back on track? Is the business rebounding? I can tell you that the recruitment business is it's burning red hot right now. There is no question that people are out there hiring, and they're trying to, restock talent within their ranks. And we're significantly busy right now. There's just no question. But again, your brand and your financial stability is very important. They want to know about leadership. They want to know that top executives are in touch with their people. They want to hear stories about the style of the leadership team that they're getting involved with, especially when you're hiring, director, VP level positions. They want little bios actually on people that they'll be interviewing with. They go out on LinkedIn. They look at any resource that they can to figure out who is part of that executive team, where they've come from in their career, to position themselves for better at that during the interview. So they really do a thorough examination of the leadership team. Uh, Work-life balance, it goes without saying that the fact that a lot of people have worked from home, and even top executives have had their, travel essentially stopped over the last year. It's given a lot of people time to think about what's important to them and their families. And, the remote work question is not going to go away. We're asked that repeatedly, all levels of all our organizations. How does the company view remote work today? If I have a client that is saying to me that we're back to 5 days in the office, the first thing I say to them is, well, that's great for your organization. What's your competition doing in town? Because if people are being allowed to work 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, some sort of hybrid workforce, you have to be careful. Uh, People have made the crossover to work from home, and they like it. So what I urge companies to do is have a level of flexibility. Think outside the box a little bit. Uh, it's very worthwhile to accommodate top talent if it means letting them do their reports at home one day a week versus in the office in a cubicle. That's something to consider. Remote work has really become a big touch point right now. I have customers that are looking to fill inside sales jobs, and they really don't care where their person sits, as long as they have good computer skills, great product knowledge, and have the ability to pick up the phone wherever they are in peace and quiet and deal with a customer to solve problems. They don't care where they are. It's a really interesting scenario. We filled a number of jobs where, as long as the inside sales rep is in the same time zone, they don't have a real issue as to where that person sits. And then you're always dealing with candidates that talk about the COVID commute. What is the COVID commute? Well, a lot of people see that there's fewer cars on the highway, and they take into consideration now that the traffic's going to get back to normal. So from that perspective, again, they're comfortable working from home, and they take a different look at the job. I had a gentleman just the other day who had about a 20-minute commute if he was going in the office every day. And in the past, that would have been an absolute no-brainer, a short commute, a cup of coffee. Now this same individual looks at it as, do I really want to make that commute when I can do that job at home? So again, take that into consideration when you're looking at top talent. Can they do the job remotely, effectively, and get the job done to your level of requirement? Whether it's a top level executive or mid-tier individual or even an entry level position, everybody wants coaching. everybody wants a mentor. Everyone wants someone that can be an insider for them within the company that can help direct them through obstacles and challenges. We get asked this question a lot. Who am I working for? What is that individual's background? How long has he or she been with the company? That's all very important to candidates. Um, Even at a president's level, the president, the new president that's coming on board, will always ask about the transition plan from the old president to the new president. And even the most astute candidate who gets the job, he or she wants to have the opportunity to work side by side with the outgoing president and really see their style and see the way they operate up front in person. Keep that in mind. Believe it or not, benefits have become a real strike point in a lot of negotiations with candidates. Candidates are really digging in on the benefits, their out of pocket expenses, the depth and breadth of coverage. I highly encourage companies to put together a one-page beauty sheet, little cut sheet, which gives a candidate the opportunity to see, your benefits in the right light. Uh, Benefits help close deals right now. There's no question. The companies that have weaker benefit packages that are competing against bigger competitors that have, end-to-end coverage, which is significant, that is a key differentiator. It's not to a lot of candidates, money is obviously very important, but the benefits piece has risen to the level where it's a deal breaker or deal maker. Again, we've talked about your company's structure and upward mobility. You know, Candidates want to know how they're going to get promoted and what that next step's going to be, especially candidates that are earlier in their career. They want to know what that path looks like. So even though we encourage candidates not to put the cart before the horse and focus on the job that's at stake and do a great job there, they still want to know where they can go within the company. So we highly encourage, our clients to talk about career progression and how you're going to help that candidate get to that next level of the organization. It's very meaningful to the candidates, and a lot of that can be done through continued education. Um, as I mentioned earlier, education is really critical. It's a piece of the equation that sometimes gets overlooked or taken for granted, but especially newer people to our industries, they're starving for product knowledge, absolutely starving for product knowledge, and that's the only way they know they're going to get better and add value to their organization. So have some sort of educational roadmap for anybody you hire in the company, and it's obviously an investment on your side, but it's an investment that's going to keep people in the seat in your company for the long term. We talked in everybody's talk today about remote work. But as I had mentioned earlier, there's kind of no boundaries right now when it comes to remote work. I think Jim Pouliopoulos said it the best today in his opening comments about the hybrid workforce and the percentages of companies that are going towards a hybrid workforce. It, and I think it's a real industry-wide challenge that we all face today is what decision are you going to make and when you're going to make it about a hybrid workforce if you're going to go that direction at all. I think it will really be part of the balancing act for candidates when they make the decisions. Again, it's because so many people have worked remotely. It's ingrained in their mind. They have a new routine. They have a new culture. They're able to have better work-life balance. And the top candidates, they're going to find the right location and they're going to find the right company and they're going to be happier. One of the things that we're seeing now is, especially on the manufacturer side, is that sign-on bonuses are becoming more prevalent. Uh, Companies have a salary bandwidth that they're up against the wall on. They want to keep that candidate in that width so that they're not you know confusing the rest of the organization or making any exceptions. So they'll pop the candidate into the slot, which allows them to get the highest salary, but at the same point, that salary as part of the total compensation package, when you throw the bonus on top of it, might not be enough to sway that candidate your way. So being able to keep the salary and bonus as a fixed expense, they're throwing pretty significant signing bonuses on the table to get that person on board right now. And we see candidates that have been essentially burned over the last year that are, say, salespeople that have been commission based, opting for higher base pays and less commission, which drives down their total compensation goal, but they feel more secure. They feel more secure and they feel they can focus more on their job without the pressure of maybe losing money and changing their style of living. So even though that sounds a little, maybe to some financial people in the forum, that might sound a little crazy, we see companies embracing that type of model. And I think there's a lot of dialogue out there today regarding, Salesforce compensation. Folks like Michael Marks do a great job in very granular detail on analyzing companies' salary structure versus for the Salesforce. And that's something to really be considered. So guaranteed money is a biggie. There's no question about it. Let's just wrap up with a couple of quick comments. Recruiting methods have changed. Obviously, communication, whether it be texting, phone calls, emails, virtual interviews, I mean, that's just part of the everyday routine. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago, the top executive at Indeed said that virtual interviews have gone up 1,000%. And that's true. I mean, virtual interviews, if you can't do a virtual interview right now, then that's a problem. Testing, we're seeing more and more companies using testing, whether it be predictive index or caliber. Those are the two more important ones, more frequently used one. I can't emphasize the need for speed. You can't wait to close on top talent. There's just not the ability to wait when you have someone engaged and they're the right person for the job. You have to try to close them because they're not going to wait for you. They're going to move on to the next option. We see some workforce trends with lower salaries, longer work days. There's no question some of that stuff comes up. The technology impact is significant. We're seeing earlier, rising star type candidates taking over positions that someone that might have had more experience would have been a better fit for that job. But the technology driven rising star is taking over those positions and earning more starting salary. Yes, I'd have to say, give your HR department a big hug. They've been through an awful lot of the past year, and think about how their jobs have changed. And I hear it all the time. The stress that these executives go through is pretty amazing. As I mentioned earlier, headquarters or executive reach out in the process is really important. And candidates are noticing interviewers that are under stress. David Gordon of the Channel Marketing Group, he put out a great survey about a month or two back to the contractor community. And basically the feedback that he got was that outside sales, that role's changing in the contractor eyes, and they're putting a higher value and importance on inside sales and technical support. And the biggest evaluator is leadership style. Companies are looking for executives that when they hire executives, the style and the culture fit are very important. So interviewing tips and review, be careful about every candidate that walks through your door, because not only are you interviewing them, but they're interviewing you and your company. Candidates have much more clarity on what's important to them. Candidates will talk after hours. They'll talk on weekends. There's this thought out there that there's many more candidates that are ready and available, but that's not necessarily true. We find that there's still some really strong top talent, A-type people, but there's B-level people out there that are probably out of a job for a reason. So, we try to produce, top talent and what we call finalists for every job we recruit for. Candidates are really feeling the stress of the interview process. They can read the body language of an interviewer very, very closely. So let's just talk about, as a wrap up here, blueprint for recruiting success. These are kind of the best practices that we've seen. You have to have a review of internal candidates first. You have to have a point person who owns the process, have a plan, a deadline, assign key stakeholders, define the strategy up front, have everybody on your recruiting team be on the exact same page. It's really important to have continuous communication throughout the process. No surprises. It's a two-way street. Interviewing and recruitment is a two-way street. Have a weekly update with your recruiting team. I love it when a customer wants to say, hey, John, every Monday at 9 o'clock, we're going to recruit, we're going to have a recruiting meeting, go over the search. Get upper management involved. Again, have a sense of urgency. And most importantly, have a touch plan after the onboarding, before onboarding. What I mean by that is you have typically a 2-week, 3-week period. Make sure that, whether it's HR, hiring manager, or recruiter, is touching that candidate throughout those 2 weeks of resignation time. Okay, lastly, recruitment, it's a contact sport. There's no question about it. More so now than ever. You have to really be able to defend your culture to candidates. Candidates are really savvy. Recruitment's way, way more than just keyword searching and job posting. We feel we have an advantage because we're from the industry, now working for the industry. Recruitment really takes some street level intelligence to close the top candidate. There's no question about it. And your success is really defined by how well either your internal recruiter or your external recruiter sells the culture, sells the company, and get that candidate to commit to joining your team. With that in mind, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to MDM for the opportunity to address your group today. And feel free to give us a call if we can ever be of any assistance to any of the companies that are out there looking for top talent. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, John. And we have about, just over a minute. So we have several questions here. I know we're not going to get to all of them. I probably have time for one. I will share them with you if you're willing to follow up to provide a couple answers here.
Oh, absolutely. And as people on the audience know, that our whole presentation will be available through MDM through a PDF. So feel free to ask for that.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to pick one here. And this is about warehouse. There are a couple of questions around warehouse employees, and become an incredible challenge over the past 12 months where people they don't really seem to care. They want to work on their own terms, and it's any kind of, I guess, insight or tips on how to recruit and retain, alternative labor pools, ways to develop flex scheduling for that kind of pool to try to strengthen that.
Yeah, there's no question at that level of a distributor, the warehouse position is a tough fill for most companies. There's no question about it. I think, again, getting back to our core concepts of the presentation, the warehouse employee has to see a future with the company, or else it's going to be rapid turnover in that type of position. They should be assigned somebody in the company as a mentor that can help that individual on a weekly basis, see the vision of the company and see the importance of their role. I think a lot of times those type of level of positions are, they're not given enough importance in an organization. And a lot of these people will see that and feel that. And let's face it, someone who's working in the warehouse, picking an order, or a driver who's making a delivery, the driver can be the salesman's eyes and ears at a customer because they're in the back office, they're in the inventory, they're dropping off products. So I would just say,
and John, I got to end it there, I'm afraid, because we're wrapping up the session. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.